Hello and welcome to the lecture on generative AI and large language models. So we will start this session with an understanding of the AI system as a whole and some of its components. In this video, we will understand what is AI, define artificial intelligence, and also we will see what is the difference between discriminative AI and generative AI. So let's start with analyzing these images first. Now in the first set, you can see some pictures with captions, or should I say the problem statement. So if you look at the first picture, it says segregate a group of colleges into clusters. The second one, classify a record into a distinct class. The third one is detecting an object. So you can see some objects, a baseball, tennis ball, a cup. So it can clearly identify these different objects. The fourth one is predicting a stock price for a given period. So you can see the blue area on the right hand side. So that's the future stock prediction, and it takes the input from the past data. And finally, we have an image of a lung, and the AI system can classify whether this is a healthy lung or an unhealthy lung. So let's call this as AI system 1. And now let us look at the second set of photographs. See these images. So let's call them AI system 2. So the first one is summarize a paragraph. So we have a paragraph and then it summarizes and gives me a smaller paragraph. The second one is translating a text from one language to the other language. Then we have a QA system. You ask a question and you get a reply from a machine, and the next question is based on the reply that it gets, and then it goes on and on. Then you have dictating some tasks to your personal assistant, and finally we have generating a code by identifying the prompt. So you can write a prompt in English or in any language, and then the system is going to generate a code in any language of your choice. So you can write a prompt saying give me a Python code to sort a list, and the response is going to be a Python program. So let's call this as AI system 2. Now the question is there any difference between these two AI systems, system 1 and system 2? So yes, there is a distinct difference between these two systems. Now this is system 1, which is a discriminative system. So what this system does, this AI system does, is predictions. So it takes a data, it identifies the pattern, and then it is going to predict what is going to be the output. So if you look at this diagram, so we see that on the left hand side there are blue dots, and on the right hand side there are red dots, and then there is a line of separation. So that means the two classes are separated. So you can see the distinct classes. Now this can be translated into a real life example. So let's say that a customer is we have a bank customer, and this customer wants a loan. So the bank will have some kind of a model which will determine whether this customer is likely to get a loan or not. So let's assume that the blue dots are the positive class and the red dots are the negative class. So we can see that there is a clear distinction between who gets the loan and who does not get the loan. So this is an example of a discriminative class. So here the important point to note is that the distribution of data does not matter. So what it means is, if I build this model and if I take some other data and apply on this particular model, the model can give me some kind of a prediction. However, it may not be exactly what is intended, but it still does some kind of a prediction. So that is a discriminative model. Now on the other hand, if you look at this data, this diagram, you can see that there are two figures, one is in blue and one is in red. So this is a generative model where data is generated by identifying the pattern of my source data. So this is also known as synthetic data generation. Now, what are the situations where you want to generate data? Now, a lot of times when we are working with clients, we have seen that clients are a little hesitant in giving us an entire set of data. So the number of data points that we want to build the model may not be sufficient. So there has to be some kind of a provision where we try to replicate the data and we simply cannot copy and paste it and increase the number of data points. So there has to be some kind of a sequencing and some system to it. So that is done by this generative model. So the generative model is going to identify what is the pattern of my source data, and then it is going to generate n number of data points as specified by the user. So I can say if I want 1000 extra data, so I can specify that number 1000, and it is going to, the system is going to find the pattern of my source data, and then it is going to generate those extra points or those extra data, and the pattern of both these data points will be exactly the same. So that is the third point. The generated data should have or will have the same distribution as my original data. So that is a difference between a discriminative model and a generative model. Now let's get into the AI. Let's try to understand artificial intelligence and what are the different aspects of AI. We'll try to look at some definitions and we'll see how AI actually evolved. So AI is, if you look at the definition, is the ability of a machine or a computer to perform extremely complex tasks that are typically associated with humans, and it does this with extreme proficiency and very high accuracy. So the errors are less, the accuracy is more, and very proficient. Now you must be wondering why it is associated with human intelligence. Now if you look at the properties or the abilities of humans, so there are lots of things that you can see. Number one is the ability to adjust with the environment change. Human beings have the capability of doing multiple things at the same time, so multiple traits and multiple abilities. So these things are some of the properties by which the AI systems have been inspired. And if you look at any AI systems, you will see that they have these following features: the ability to learn. Now to give a small example, if you are doing image classification, now how do humans look at images? Now you show us an image and we'll probably have to see 5 or 6 different images of the same image, and then we can identify that this image is, let's say, a cat or a dog or whatever may be the image. But if you have to make the same thing as an AI system, now the number of images have to be huge because the patterns that are learned is very large. So the ability to learn becomes very important. It does learn a lot of these things, different patterns. You rotate the image. So these are different ways in which the AI system learns these different patterns. How it can reason, that is another important property. How it can solve problems based on the past data that the system has learned. How it can perceive the data and the language, where the systems can understand different languages and it can also give the output in different languages. So these are some of the important characteristics of the AI systems which makes it very powerful and extremely creative to a large extent, and also highly accurate. In this video, we discussed about AI. We saw some definitions and the problem statements. and how closely AI is related to human intelligence. And we also saw what is the difference between discriminative AI and generative AI.